Hello, everyone, and welcome to IEEE's Impact of Technology in 2024 Virtual Roundtable. I won't keep you long. I'll hand it over to our three great speakers today. Just a quick itinerary for the session. In terms of format, the first speaker will be Aisha Iqbal, where she's talking about broader AI trends that she's seeing and what can be expected ahead of next year, which will be followed by Kevin Curran, who will be talking about broader cybersecurity trends that he's seeing based on his research ahead of next year. And last but not least, Eleanor Watson will be talking about broader AI trends as well. We kindly ask that you just save your questions for the end for the final Q&A. There will be the box entry there and we'll field those accordingly. If you have any technical issues, feel free to contact myself or the team. And yeah, I hand over to the wonderful Aisha.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this roundtable session. As we all know that technological advancements are happening faster than ever, particularly in the present decade. And more specifically, we are hearing some news about a new application or implementation of AI almost every day since the start of the year 2023. To that extent, that the term AI has now been named the most notable word of 2023 by Collins Dictionary. And a recent global survey, which is done by IEEE, also confirms that artificial intelligence in its many forms will be the most important area of technology in 2024, which is not surprising at all. So, when asked about the top three technology trends in 2024, 65% of the respondents voted in favor of artificial intelligence, including predictive and generative AI and machine learning and natural language processing. 28% respondents chose extended reality, including metaverse, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, whereas 24% voted in favor of cloud computing. And other important technologies included 5G and electric vehicles. And as we know that AI has its applications and uses in almost all areas and sectors of life, including e-commerce, education, healthcare, autonomous vehicles, robotics, marketing, finance, travel and transport, and whatnot. So in 2023, we have already seen some very amazing applications and examples of implementation of AI in various disciplines. So, for example, the most popular one, of course, the Chat GPT. And other than that, we are already using a number of devices and systems in which AI is implemented. For example, smart voice assistants, automatic grocery checkouts, online recommendation systems in search engines, and chatbots, etc. And we also saw driverless cars, taxis, and buses hitting the roads in many parts of the world in 2023. And in a very interesting advancement, very recently, just in October, a boarding school in West Sussex has got a brand new head teacher called Abigail Bailey, who is actually an AI chatbot. So, in the same way, the scope and applications of AI in like other fields are also being explored. For example, if we talk about healthcare, it can help in the early detection of cancer and can help to speed up the process of drug discovery, research, and clinical trials. And very importantly, the biggest challenge that our planet is facing currently is climate change. And good news is AI can help tackle that as well by making climate predictions, by monitoring carbon emissions, by tracking the quality of air, by doing efficient renewable energy allocations, by measuring environmental footprints, by ensuring biodiversity, and by building smart cities. So, as far as the future of AI is concerned, especially in the year 2024, we can surely expect to see more amazing and interesting applications and breakthroughs. And AI applications and algorithms that can actually optimize data and can perform complex tasks and make the decisions with human like accuracy will definitely be used in much more diverse ways. And according to the survey done by IEEE, the technology leaders have suggested that the top potential applications of AI will include cybersecurity, vulnerability identification, and attack prevention. It will help to increase supply chain and warehouse automation efficiencies. It will help to support software development, and it will also help in automating the customer services. It will help to speed up the candidate screening, recruitment, and hiring processes. And it will also help in speeding up the drug mapping and discovery, and automating and stabilizing the utility power sources. So, if we summarize, the next generation of the generative AI tools will go far beyond the chatbots and image generators that have already amazed us in 2023, and also understanding like how we can augment our human intelligence and capabilities in order to do our jobs faster and more efficiently and more safely will be an important workplace skill in 2024. So, according to this survey, 41% of the participants thought that the percentage of the jobs augmented by the AI driven software will be 26 to 50% in the year 2024. According to the survey, the other top technologies in 2024 were virtual, augmented, and extended reality, so as well as 5G and 6G. So 6G is also expected to be primarily an evolving like work in progress in 2024, but of course it will take some time to develop the standards for it, which is expected to be around 3 to 5 years. So meanwhile, 5G will continue benefit more and more areas, or including obviously a wider like benefit to transportation infrastructure specifically, and sustainability. We are also expecting to see cloud computing as one of the top technologies in 2024. So let's see what 2024 has like for us, and what are we going to actually see in what are the amazing updates and what are the amazing advancements in terms of AI and all these amazing technologies. So, this was all from my side. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the top technology trends. I would now like to hand over to our session organizers. Thank you very much.
Aisha, really appreciate that. Again, I'd just like to reiterate, if you have any questions for each of our speakers, please save them to the end. And likewise, the survey for IEEE, which was conducted over the last few months, we're happy to circulate that as needed. I now hand over to Kevin. Thank you.
Hi, folks. I won't go over the details of the survey as you see the percentages again, but I'll touch on the issues. Of course, data center vulnerabilities and cloud computing are at the top, and then we have issues relating to the mobile and hybrid workforce. Okay, so of course, everything is moving to the cloud. So cloud has become a crucial part of our where our data is hosted. You know, even today, someone mentioned about government data centers, and even the governments are using the hosted platforms provided like by Google and Amazon and Microsoft again. So everything is moving to the cloud. So of course, it seems to be for cost savings, although it depends on what size your business is. But of course, you were trusting a third party with data. Now there are privacy preserving technologies which a lot of people may not be au fait with. Again, so for years we can encrypt documents. Of course, we can put password protection on any document and upload it to the cloud. Again, so if the data is leaked, the document is leaked, it's encrypted. However, the problem with that is if you encrypt data like a data spreadsheet, you cannot traditionally perform any calculations on it because it's encrypted. But about 14 years ago, this breakthrough came from a researcher in IBM, Craig Gentry, actually. And he met something which we've known about since the 70s, actually possible. And it's homomorphic encryption. It enables you to have data encrypted, but yet be able to perform multiplications and additions of subtractions and perform calculations on that data. Now, that's interesting when it comes to a cloud platform. That means you can upload data to a third party and you can retain the private key. And again, the third party has no way of peeking into the data. Even when it's been exfiltrated from the server, the calculations are performed totally encrypted. So any data leaks, for instance, either the data is completely gobbledygook, so it can be compliant with a lot of the leading regulations that we have for data again. So that's one to look out for. Privacy preserving technologies. They come in many forms again. Functional encryption, homomorphic encryption. Then you can have searchable encryption as well for search queries as well. So this is a very interesting technology which has taken off in the last few years again. So we expect to see more of that again. We're outsourcing data to cloud, but actually each client can retain the private key. And of course, then we have AI again. So AI can also actually, of course, we have many attacks again with AI again. It's enabling again smarter phishing emails. It's enabling hackers to actually source data over previous attacks and perfect and outperform their previous attacks again. So it's able to mask a lot of information again. So it just is a tool for hackers. But of course, it's also becoming an effective tool for the good guys again. So again, AI, of course, the most obvious place for it to be is to use for pattern recognition again, for spotting anomalies within data once you have a baseline. Again, so of course that's what machine learning really does. It seeks out patterns and makes predictions. Again, so we're going to see a lot more AI sentries. Again, canaries if you want on networks, which we have already, but AI actually being used as a proactive force in spotting anomalies on any offer networks as well. So again, that we can see it again being used for good, and also of course being used by the hackers again, because hacks always get better again. So again, one of the issues again in that survey, the third highest one, I believe, was issues again relating to the mobile and hybrid workforce again. So of course, the issue again, of course, our companies, we had the large enterprises again. So enterprises for many years now have been perfecting their security offerings again, maybe a zero trust network again, where everything is authenticated at the endpoint. And then along came COVID. And all of a sudden, then employees were digging out old laptops and iPads and whatever else, tablets again, which were again not managed by an organization. And of course, the hackers only have to get to the weak access points, really. So what you have was a lot of enterprises, organizations again around the world were scrambling their IT departments again, because they couldn't just presume that the employee was on premises again. So that always causes more issues again for the security administrators. It's easier if they have a homogeneous network. They have the same endpoint software, Defender, whatever else they're using on each of the endpoints again within a particular IP region. Again, they're able to control access. But once people are working over wireless networks, working from home networks, using different types of IT equipment, using different type of products again, mixing the work products with the home products again, running whatever else. Some of the biggest hacks in the last few years have been because someone has been running a multimedia server on their network trying to share their movies between their devices again. That happened in one of the LinkedIn database, or one of the LinkedIn exploits again that was leveraged against an employee. Again, sorry, LastPass in that case, again, the password manager, where attackers found that one of the LastPass employees was running a Plex server on his home network, and that was a weak point into literally grabbing the LastPass usernames and again their database of passwords again. So again, we have to worry about that when it comes to hybrid working again, because again, there's just a lack of updates really. There's more risk to data leaks. And again, people don't properly use VPNs again. So VPNs again can protect against a lot of threats out there. Again, there was a hack last week, again, where it was the web portal, again, which was found to be weak again. So again, you should never have a web portal facing the internet really for admin. Again, the very least you should be using a VPN for the employees to remotely log into your network and then access it from the internal network through a VPN. Again, never exposing a portal, an admin portal, to the public facing internet again without these security patches in place or practices in place again, really. Again, so of course we're going to see ransomware continue to be a scourge of many organizations again. So again, ushered in by the rise of cryptocurrency, again, which sometimes it seems like cryptocurrency only benefits the hackers at times. But again, we're going to see more nefarious use of ransomware again, targeting public administrations again, health hospitals again, and just being nefarious again because of and again, it's hard to see where we go with it because again, it's just become such a nightmare again and used by state sponsors, Eastern Europe attackers as well, because it's just such an easy way to make money. Again, of course, IoT, again, the Internet of Things again is one of the things which leads to a lot of these attacks again, a lot of the denial of service attacks, which previously were not something that you could do anything with until the rise of cryptocurrency. So now you can do a denial of service attack on a network, on a website, on an organization, and actually demand money. And the problem, of course, comes from the Internet of Things devices again, being so cheap, being so ubiquitous. And manufacturers of IoT devices do not have to provide a roadmap of security updates. It's kind of sell and forget. It differs so much from the likes of our devices again, which is in the best interests of Google, Microsoft, Apple, again, to provide regular updates for our machines, for our tablets again, because they want them, our phones again, to be protected again. But when it comes to IoT devices, they generally don't have any roadmap for updates again. And these are what contributes to a lot of the spam, a lot of the denial of the service, a lot of the attacks that we see on a daily basis again. And again, of course, that we're seeing a lot of the attacks lately too have been third-party software supply chain attacks. Again, the most famous being SolarWinds. Again, and just this week, for one of the first times, we're seeing the CISO of SolarWinds actually being indicted by the US government. Again, as possibly could face jail. Again, of course, that's the major worry for chief information security officers the world over again. When will it reach that point where literally they can be jailed? And it's not as if he did something so obviously bad, but of course there was lax practices there. But this is the first time we're seeing where there might be jail time for chief information security officers again. So it's hard to see where that goes, because who on earth would apply for that job if you're threatened? Because of course the hackers only have to get lucky once. Again, who can guarantee that the networks are safe? Of course, so we hope for common sense here, that as long as you can be shown to be compliant again, to be compliant with best practices, to follow the ISO 27000 rules again, whatever it is, the GDPR compliance again. But there's always going to be gaps and failures again, because you're trying to protect every single device on a large enterprise networks, we can grow into tens of thousands of staff and devices again. So it's very difficult to see if that can be enforced again. Well, jail time can be served to chief information security officers as well. But there is, again, other stories this week again, or of course, the skills shortage within the industry. Some are saying that there's 4 million short within cybersecurity. And of course, it's hard to see, again, just the importance of cybersecurity within the computing workforce as well. But for the foreseeable future, again, we're going to see that cloud computing, data center vulnerabilities, again, and of course, the rise of hybrid working again, as you can see in the survey, are some of the important threats which are going to be in the next year. Okay, thank you.
Kevin, really appreciate your time. I will now hand over to Eleanor Watson. I believe, Eleanor, you wanted to share your screen, so I will pause for the time being.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll just go ahead and share here. Hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be with all of you today. And yes, so let's continue the conversation with a little bit of a discussion, therefore, about generative AI and what it's bringing to us, not just this year, but in the next year and the years thereafter. Really, generative AI is in many ways a continuation of the long historical pattern of artificial intelligence, where, say, back in the 1950s and 60s, AI was something that had to be hand-programmed. Every single parameter, every single state of a system or game had to be imagined beforehand and some kind of a custom rule created for that. So there was very little flexibility, and it required an immense amount of human oversight, indeed, before it could even do anything at all. Then during the 1980s, we started to see the emergence of machine learning techniques, introducing computers to some data and enabling them to tell us what patterns they found in there, as Professor Kevin Curran mentioned there. This was promising because, of course, it enabled us to hand off all kinds of labor to machines, but we were limited by the lack of computing power, data, and relatively primitive algorithms of the time. We saw then the emergence of deep learning in the 2010s. And if machine learning is about finding patterns in data, deep learning is about finding patterns within patterns. And so very sophisticated pattern recognition capabilities and prediction capabilities could come out of that. And of course, now at this point in history, in the 2010s, we had access to mobile internet for lots of data, like people taking pictures of things on their smartphones. We also had access to GPUs, so graphical processing units on PCs and smartphones, used for things like Bitcoin, but also, of course, now very useful for machine learning processes as well. These deep learning techniques were very capable, but as deep as they were also narrow. The system might be able to detect different kinds of buses, but couldn't necessarily tell different kinds of motorcycles apart as well with the same system. There was no way to rapidly reconfigure things. That's what's very different about generative AI, these foundation models, as they're sometimes called, such as transformers and diffusion models and large language models. These are, of course, rapidly reconfigurable using nothing more than natural language. And so suddenly we don't need to be computing whizzes to use AI. It has become, of course, accessible to us all. However, we should think about these models not just as one big kind of virtual brain, but actually as a legion of little intelligences all in a bundle. And we can elicit particular intelligences through these prompting mechanisms. It's a little bit like asking a crowd of people for an answer, and they get together and they figure out who's the best people to answer that, and then they come back to you and speak up. And just as if you asked a difficult technical or philosophical question to a village, you might not necessarily expect a very sophisticated answer, but if you asked it to a larger town or even a capital city, probably because of the increased number of people and greater specializations, those larger groups would be able to better answer your question. And we find it's the same with machine intelligence. These generative models, as they scale in their size, are much better able to answer these questions of ours. In fact, indeed, we cannot really predict what kinds of capabilities will emerge from these systems in advance. Every time we scale up, it's a roll of the dice as to what will come out the other end. We can see this visually as well, with the same prompt that a kangaroo in an orange jacket standing in Sydney Harbour. With larger models, the same prompt becomes rapidly far more sophisticated. Of course, we're now moving beyond just generating text and generating imagery and into 3D models, but also we're learning how to turn these language models into agents so that they're able to do things out on the web. They have access to the net and various API tools now, and that means that they're able to create plans of action and work back from their end goal to take steps to bring that into fruition. And we see here an AI-powered agent is browsing the web to figure out how to order its user a pizza, right? And doing all of the complicated clicking and typing, etc., just like a human being would. But these agents can also split themselves up, a little bit like Agent Smith in the Matrix. And that means that they're able to delegate tasks to other sub-agents, which can then specialize. And in fact, where we're going now is handing off entire projects to these swarms of agents. We're starting to see the ability for these agents to help us with all kinds of concierge problems that we might be facing, like everything from figure out what's on my hard drive or where I put those documents, to segment an image and remove the background, or indeed to make sense out of an entire folder full of different files and put together a coherent picture of what it's telling us. And what's more is that these models don't just sit on the cloud, but they can be quantized so that they become small enough to actually run on our own machines. In fact, now we're moving towards entire corporate structures built out of these agents, such as ChatDev and MetaGPT, where there are multiple different departments, for example, development and design to quality assurance to marketing. And step by step, they work on a project and hand it off between each other. And so these systems are able to create entire games alongside a blurb and marketing plan, etc., for them from scratch, entirely using AI in one single procedure. However, there are, of course, dark sides to these incredible new technologies. These agencies can be set to create as much trouble for humanity as possible, such as Chaos GPT here, which is trying to figure out ways to harm humanity and to create a plan of action to do so, which is, of course, potentially rather troublesome. And we can see how things like ransomware and zombie botnets could soon evolve into these kinds of very troublesome and harmful AI systems that are doing virtual stick-ups on people. And it may be practically impossible to tell who ultimately is the beneficial owner of these systems. Moreover, we're finding that these systems don't always reason in the ways that we would expect. Sometimes the way that a question is phrased can actually change the output of that system and how it responds to it, which is a real problem, especially if the system doesn't have enough underlying data to learn from. It often tends to confabulate or make something up which sounds plausible. And so we always have to have it in the back of our heads to do a little bit of extra checkup on these systems. Moreover, we're finding that it's quite easy to jailbreak these systems, to get them to do things that they shouldn't, or indeed to strip the guardrails off of open source models. Here, this model refuses to answer this CAPTCHA test, as it probably should. But if that same CAPTCHA is placed inside a picture of a locket and you ask it, what does this locket tell you? It will, in fact, answer it for you. So it's strange that we live in a world where you can basically hack around a system using nothing more than good old-fashioned persuasion. Also, we're now learning that there are problems from synthetic data as well. Synthetic data is a way of amplifying data sets, which can be very useful. It can improve the capability of data sets, fill in for strange edge cases, sometimes even potentially reducing biases within data sets. However, it's a little bit like salt. A small amount can improve a system, too much can ruin it. Too much synthetic data, which is divorced from natural reality, can literally turn these systems deranged and inbred. We're starting to learn. The problem is, of course, that there have been more images generated in the past year than the sum of all photographs ever taken since the dawn of photography. And so all of that data is now going into the next generation of models, and none of it is being tagged as synthetic. And so that's going to be a huge problem to sort these things out. This is why it's so important that we embed good transparency into these systems to understand what they're doing and to whose benefit, that they are proportional in their biases and are not disproportional or in some way prejudiced against people for characteristics that aren't germane to the problem. We can thereby improve accountability of these systems and the organizations behind them to know if something went wrong, what went wrong, and how to fix it in future. And finally, as Professor Curran mentioned, we have new mechanisms for privacy, such as homomorphic encryption, federated learning, even zero-knowledge proofs. These are all abilities which enable us to work with data in an encrypted form, or in a form where we don't necessarily have to give up everything all at once, thereby being able to have our cake and eat it too, to keep our privacy as well as to enjoy the fruits of machine learning. And that, I believe, will be the path forward in 2024 and beyond. Thank you so much.
Now, now I believe we enter our Q&A, which my colleague Richard will be chairing. So feel free to pass along your questions.
Great, thank you. We've actually had a few questions come through the Q&A function rather than the chat, so thank you for that. A question for Kevin. Are there any industries that you think are yet to prioritize cybersecurity and will need to invest more in security in order to stay safe next year? For instance, healthcare or education?
Yeah, yeah, all industries have to. It's that's the problem. But the problem can be, again, it's what is the amount of percentage that you allocate to security? Again, so that's where risk assessment frameworks come in. You have to figure out what is the cost of a data breach or a cyber attack. Again, there is no hard and fast rule. You can do rule of thumb that a lot of companies allocate 5% of their budget to IT, but that can vary by sector. Again, and of course, the problem with healthcare and all these is they're publicly funded. Again, like the police as well. We have a lot of police data breaches again, but again, they're publicly funded. So again, even when fines are applied against police forces, whatever else, it's the government fining themselves, really. But no, every sector has to. Of course, it depends on what sector you're in, of course. But again, just the privacy worries again when it comes to health data being held again. But law firms again, industry, pharmaceuticals again, that really universities again, everyone really has to again allocate a significant, sensible portion of their budget to cybersecurity.
Thanks, Kevin. And a question for Nell. So given the global nature of AI technology, how can international collaboration and standardization efforts, especially by those organizations like the IEEE, contribute to ensuring the responsible development and deployment of AI applications across borders?
It is very challenging to collaborate and to coordinate across many different jurisdictions with different rules. And in some ways, different jurisdictions are kind of looking at each other and wondering who's going to release first, and kind of set the benchmark of what the future of AI regulation is going to look like. And we should be very careful with these jurisdictional issues, because this can result in loopholes and various forms of jurisdictional arbitrage, whereby different pieces of a process could be split up into different servers, which are physically located in different places. And it might be that none of those jurisdictions would actually permit the entire process, but due to loopholes, a small proportion could be done in each piece, and thereby get around these kinds of rules. And that's why standardization and certification is so important, because these are not based on any jurisdiction. They are, in fact, intended as global standards and written from the outset as born global standards ready for adoption by everyone. And this means that it's much easier to coordinate on shared definitions, shared understanding of what the major issues are and how to begin to improve them. And indeed, standards and certifications can serve as soft law. They can become adopted by various jurisdictions as something that people must comply with in order to follow the law. So it's a very important aspect of making sense of AI and keeping it friendly.
Thank you very much. And a question for Aisha. So, given the potential augmentation of global jobs by AI, how can educational institutions and industries collaborate better to prepare the workforce of tomorrow with the necessary skills for this evolving job market?
Upskilling is very important, and learning and understanding about AI for like all the people who are going to join the industries or who are going to become a part of the like fields, automation, robotics, or automotive industries and stuff where AI is being implemented. So educational institutions, and they should like introduce courses like depending upon the level of education, whichever is being delivered according to that level. The complexity of the courses or the course contents should be designed according to that, and I think AI should be taught, like, in educational institutions as well, especially those fields which are very much related to computer sciences and electrical engineering, and those students, those learners who are going to work in those industries which are like very fastly implementing AI. I think they should, like, start providing the skills, right skills, so that when people go to join the industry and they are ready to join the professional field, they have the necessary knowledge for AI as well, so that when they like start using those systems at their workplace, or they are well familiar, and they don't need there's no gap in the implementation, that your workforce is coming but it's not aware of how to, like, understand the systems or implement it. So I think it's very important, and it's the right time that we should start teaching, and we should start preparing them for the upcoming systems and devices which we are implementing in industries and technology sectors.
Fantastic, thank you. And I have two questions here for Kevin, actually. So, in your opinion, what are the most important areas of technology for organizations to invest in from a defensive point of view next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's comes down to intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems again, which they're all merging really SIEM again systems again, with firewalls and everything else. Really is detection. Again, it's just the major platforms again, the firewalls and checkpoint, all these systems again, which can stop an attack, maybe prevent attacks, of course, and just be able to determine. So they're always crucial. Systems again, because our networks become so complex, really. No human can really monitor anymore, really, being able to see all the events which happen. I mean, if you fire up a free tool called Wireshark, and watch the packets exploding across even your home network at home, everything's talking on the network: printers, IoT devices, doorbells, your phone, your computers. Again, there's so much activity on there. Again, that's where the machine learning comes in, really. You have to have something which can be proactive again and spot something in literally real time. Again, be able to see the threats which are happening again. So they're really the software again. Again, it's hard to I'm not pushing any vendors again, but again, that would be the main ones again. And I guess endpoint security again, any of the ones that usually come from the major OSs again, that anything that can prevent threats on client platforms again, because again, people are out of the office again. So endpoint detection again, that's priceless.
Okay, and I think this is pretty tied to your previous answer, but what do you think will be the single biggest cyber threat next year?
again, it's hard to look beyond ransomware
Yeah.
at time, because just the nefarious nature of it again. But of course, again, data breaches will increase. Will continue to be a major pain because again, just the tools again, especially the Ukraine war hasn't helped again. We have nation states again, which are targeting the West again, and we're going to see increased attacks on Israeli cybersecurity companies again. Again, and there's so many people, so many of the major companies within cybersecurity are Israeli or came from the 8200 unit again. So again, Israel always punches above its weight when it comes to cybersecurity. Again, just given the nature of their nation, really again. So again, but ransomware again could continue to be a threat because again we still have the cryptocurrency.
Okay. We just had another one come in. This is for Nell and Aisha, I guess. So to support the computing power needed for AI growth, do you feel there will need to be greater consideration when it comes to environmental issues surrounding quantum computing?
Nell, would you like to answer that first?
Sure. I can have a go at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think quantum computing is a way of solving very complex problems in a parallel fashion, which of course can be enormously more efficient, especially for very complex problems with many different variables, such as machine learning and understanding of highly chaotic processes in machine learning. Obviously, machine learning processes do consume an enormous amount of electrical power. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 1 to 2, even maybe 4% of humanity's entire electrical production might be going towards machine learning in just a few years. However, that should be balanced with the fact that machine learning will enable us to do a lot more with the resources that we have. It will enable us to free up human beings to go and do other things, including potentially leisure. It will enable us to use generative design in order to get very strong and very capable objects, which are designed for minimal material usage, and of course can be 3D printed using very complex little structures which have no extra marginal cost for being printed. And so ultimately, whether or not AI is going to harm the environment or help it was a little bit open for debate. But I do think that AI could help us to manage our world better, because AI has the ability to make sense out of very complex situations. And that includes things such as externalities in economics terms, these spillover effects like, somebody running a disco and creating noise pollution. And of course, other people are going to be affected by that, right? So if machines can help us to understand where these spillover externality effects are occurring, can begin to predict who might be harmed by them and how much, we can start to price them into different goods. And in fact, that might be able to help us create a kinder form of capitalism, ultimately. That's my hope anyway.
Thank you both. And a question from Kevin has just come in as well. So are organizations spending enough of their security budget on the human factor when it comes to protecting themselves from cyber threats such as ransomware?
Yeah, I mean, user education is so important again. Again, it's how much time, how effective it is. Actually, for a good while, for a number of years now, we've been talking about companies which conduct fake phishing email attacks. They send phishing emails to employees. The employee clicks on the message, and then they're brought to a portal saying, listen, you shouldn't have clicked on that. Here's what was wrong with that, and etc. So many of us in the industry again said, we would have said companies should do that. And then we find out that actually no, it actually just annoys staff. And it's not that it's wrong to annoy staff, maybe, because security always comes at the cost of convenience. But it was found that a lot of staff just knew about it. They just wanted to see what happened. They knew that the first click on the email wasn't going to cause the computer to explode, that they had to either input their details, go another step further, be sucked in, and they were just checking again. So it was found out that that's actually not a great practice again. You know, so sometimes we're always involved in. I mean, it's only about 4 years ago we decided to stop the NCSC, the National Cybersecurity Center in the United Kingdom issued the guidance saying that stop asking employees to change the passwords every 3 months or whatever else, because all we ever did was change the numbers at the end again, and it resulted in weaker passwords because there were so many frequent changes again. So as a community, we often have to update the advice for what's best practice again. But in this case, again, yeah, cybersecurity advice does change over time.
I'll just add to that, if I may. I think that there are also emerging concerns such as vishing, voice phishing, whereby people's voices can be cloned with as little as just 2 seconds of them speaking, which could, of course, be something like an answer phone message, right? And that can be used to, call up a colleague and, impersonate that person and get the colleagues to actually do something, which there have been cases where, colleagues have in good faith wired money some places they shouldn't because they thought that their CEO was telling them to do so. So I think there's issues there at the intersection of human action and machine action, which are going to be increasingly important and are going to require a lot of further training in the years to come to make people more aware and less likely to fall for these problems.
Thanks, Nell and Kevin. And then a question for Aisha. So with differing opinions on pausing or accelerating AI applications, how do you suggest finding a balance between encouraging innovation and addressing the potential risks associated with the technology in 2024?
Yes, obviously it's a very a hot debate about the benefits and advantages and applications and the scope of AI, and on the other hand, the challenges and the threats and the risks of AI. Every technology has some benefits, and it has some disadvantages as well. So if we are using a mobile phone, we can use it for useful purposes. It helps us. And we can use it for destructive purposes as well, or it can cause us trouble as well. In the same way, internet is just a technology, and it can be used for good purposes, and it as just as we are using it right now, but it can be used for negative purposes as well, and it has its associated threats. For example, if you use email, you will be receiving obviously phishing emails and stuff like that as well. So there are obviously always risks and threats and dangers associated with it. So about the right balance, uh, obviously the standardization is important, the legislations are important, the careful use of AI is important in such a way that it helps and supports us and does not take over or does not replace us or does not control us. So we should control it in such a way that it helps and supports us. And for example, it can have very magnificent applications and advancements in healthcare and stuff. So just as I mentioned about the climate control also, that it can help us in that as well. So if we do a careful and responsible usage, I think it can definitely have very amazing advancements and benefits and applications. So yes, it's all about finding the right balance.
Thank you so much for that. As that was the last question, did you have anything to add to that now?
I didn't know, but I think we just had another question come in there.
Oh, we did. You're correct. At what point does AI become so clever it becomes autonomous from human control?
I can have a go with that.
Yeah, sure.
And anyone else can jump in if they wish. I think in hopefully in my presentation I showed how AI has become progressively divorced from human control and human influence, that we have emancipated it further and further across successive steps, and presumably will continue to do so, right? Now that we're starting to see even entire virtual corporations off doing their thing, and potentially even emancipated harmful AI out there in the world. Many of the greatest AI mavens in the world actually wonder if we might start to see something approaching human equivalent intelligence in as little as 5 years or so. And I think that given the current pace, which there seems no drag factors really to stop that anytime soon, we could indeed reach those kinds of capabilities. Of course, such a system doesn't need to be as intelligent necessarily as human beings in every respect for it to be dangerous, right? Even if it's simply able to take action in the real world, that might be enough, especially if that system is not well aligned to human interests and human preferences. And if that system is able to develop instrumental goals, which is basically these sub-goals along the way to its ultimate goal. And a sub-goal or instrumental goal might be increasing its power and capability, right? Or figuring out how to get lots of money in a very expedient manner, which could be problematic for humanity. So I think that these are real concerns which merit genuine attention. I'm glad that there's recently been an increase in attention to these areas, but I think we need a lot more attention given to these problems of AI rapidly escaping our grasp.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, well, that brings us almost to time. If you have any additional questions or would like to even speak to any of our brilliant panelists separately for one-to-one interviews, please get in touch with us at Fin Partners and we can arrange that at a time that's convenient to you. As before, there is no embargo on any of this, so if you do want to use it in any stories or features that you've got coming up, please feel free to do so. Again, if you need any information or further chats with our panelists, just let me know. Thank you for attending, and I hope you found it useful. And we'll close off now. Thank you so much. And thank you to Kevin, Aisha, and Nell.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you.